Meteorologist Greg Bovis here to look at 3D graphics in Max without using Max Reality. Now, there'll be a document that you guys will have that kind of breaks things down step by step, but it's always good to see how things function in this because there can be a few things that might trip you up if you don't know what you're looking at versus just that document. First of all, this scene will be just titled 3D graphics. You'll find this on Select On Demand. You open that up through Max, and it's located in the Sinclair shared folder, the Max folder in the Sinclair shared area. So you download this file and you open it up in the builder, which is where we're at right now. This is what you'll see at the end of the scene. If you play the scene all the way through its timeline, you will end up with this. Now, step one on that document is to take a look at this graphic we've got right here. This is a 3D element that we're going to delete when I'm done with this. This is where you're going to put whatever graphic element you want to show in your forecast into the graphic itself. So it's any 3D object or just any object that you could pull out of any other scene that you want to populate and give a reflection to in a 3D space. So we'll get to that in a moment, but first I want to get down to this reflective line, or at least that's what it will be called here. This white reference line you can see on the screen here. This is going to be toggled off when you go to air with this graphic. But this is the point that sets home base for everything. So when you set your camera shot, it has to be in a space where you've got a little field of depth. You want a few feet of open space behind you that the graphic can animate out of. So in theory, you'll be standing right around this area where the cursor is at on the left side of the screen, and your graphic will animate from behind you. That will give you the 3D effect while you're in studio. So this line will help you set where the graphic reveals to. It will also help you set where you have the reflection playing to from below the line. Below that, you will see a thing called reflection. We'll get to that in a moment. That helps move your reflection up or down on the screen. One of the most important things here is the last thing on the list. It is the masking plane here that we've got right now. This is going to be used to hide the bottom of the screen. You want the element to be revealed from above the white line. So you can see the cursor here, the box that covers most of the bottom half of the screen. That masking plane will cover everything until the reveal of your element. So we have our element that comes from the bottom of the screen. Whatever you put in here, put it all into one group and pick the element, or I should say the intro, to allow it to fly from the bottom. You see right here on the bottom right-hand side. So you'll click Add Effect. You'll go Fly from the bottom. That will give you that effect and bring the whole graphic up all at once. Now here's a little stumbling spot. You can see we've got a little pink right here on the left side of this element, and the right part of it is revealing, but the left part isn't. That's where a few things need to be done. The masking plane is how you take care of this, along with one other important step. When you put in a 3D object or any graphic element, you want to go into position and you want to make sure that you give it a large positive Z-axis. This will push it back in the screen behind that masking plane that you have that is hiding the screen. So we're going to go with just 100 as an example. That will usually work. If it doesn't, push it back to 200 and keep going. You can go to the end of the scene then, and you can adjust the size if you still want it to be larger, but it will still reveal behind that masking plane. So now we have a larger Z-axis. We'll let it play through, and you won't see it get clipped. It will come out above that line. I mentioned reflection. You can go to that and you can actually toggle where you want the reflection to be up and down. Now occasionally at the very top of the reflection or closest to the white line, you'll get a little clipping. Occasionally the masking plane itself will need to be moved. If I move this a lot to the north, you can see it begin to cover up the reflection. You want the blue line for the top of that masking plane to be as close to that white line as possible, but also far enough to where it reveals the entire graphic. It still won't mess too much with where the graphic reveals from, but it will give you the full reflection that way. Now, when setting up a shot in the studio with this, you'll want to also take the reflective layer and go into where it shows the transparency. You will want to use this slider to really kind of line up exactly how much transparency you want to have versus how shiny your floor is. The shinier the floor, the more transparency you want, the more dull it may look, the more opacity you may want to turn down. So you, again, fudge with that back and forth, but that's kind of how you figure out what you want it to look like and give you that real reflective look whenever you're animating it in your space. The last step you would do is just turn off your reference line, and this will play out as a 3D element next to you, who's again standing relatively in this ballpark. What you're best off to do with this is set this up and try building through a few graphics. Each graphic you'll need to tweak these few things. That masking plane that goes up and down to reveal the reflection, and that reflection that makes sure that it's lining up with that white line. Once you do a few graphics, it'll get a little bit easier, but we'll walk through doing one from scratch if you want to see it then in real time. So we'll delete this. We'll go up in here and we'll add something that has a very large amount of surface area and a large amount of depth to it. So we'll go in here and we'll find, let's go to sports and pull in a football. So there's our football. This is step 1. We'll put it roughly where we want to see it in the graphic when we're done. Now we'll give it a little rotation to give it a little bit of its 3D depth here. We'll put it to the side. We'll give it a little rotation to give it the laces that come out for us. And now we've got a football. We've already got a little bit of a shadow here, but we have some tweaking to do. So step 1 will be to take this and give it a large Z-axis, because if we don't, and we just add our effect to fly from the bottom, it is going to be in front of the masking plane or cut off part of that football. We want it behind. And I'll show you right here, the farther back we push it by giving it a large Z, excuse me, that is the rotation, giving it a larger Z in the position is going to move that football back and slowly begin to cover it. There's 100, there's 200, and eventually if you go to about 300, you get it almost all the way behind. So you'll keep increasing that until the entire graphic gets behind that masking plane. There, start of our graphic, we're fine. It comes out, and it now reveals. We're going to double check with our reference line to make sure we're okay. Our reflection is okay, but if we want to make the football bigger now that it's pushed back, we can do that. But look what I mentioned. The reflection is getting cut off right near that white line. Go back to your masking plane, tweak that down just a little bit. It will reveal the rest of your football, and you'll be okay. So again, the masking plane up and down is how you're going to reveal your football or any of your graphic elements that have that reflection. The Z-axis, make sure that you get it in the position you want behind the masking plane, and then you just move your reflection up or down based upon where you want it. So it sounds a little complicated and it's a little wordy in the document, but hopefully seeing how to walk through these steps and then apply it graphic to graphic will give you a feel for how to now animate in 3D without using Max Reality.